you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Well, I'm not so sure what happened the first time I tried to go live, but we're here nevertheless, Mike. So
yes, and there's going to be some people who are shocked that we're 3 days in a row, 3 days on the trot, as they like to say in the matchroom broadcasts.
I am shocked. I mean, listen, it was like,
I'll tell you what,
it was like 70-30. 70-30, we weren't going to go live today. I tell you that.
MV must sit around waiting for us to go live. Dude's always the first one there with the thumbs up.
3 for 3 is right, man. Well, there's a lot of shit going on, So the Hanoi Open.
But I appreciate someone in the waiting room all the time.
Well, for sure. Yeah. We got some diehards, that's for sure, and we certainly appreciate all you guys who get to hang out with us and hear us talk a little bit of shit and make fools of ourselves and just enjoy pool. So, Mike, we had a wild show yesterday, man. I don't know if you guys missed it, go back and check it out. That was a lot of fun, but I'm worn out after that one, man. That one was it got a little heated.
I'm sure we can find something to go off on today.
Well, let me ask you this before we jump into like some topics here for a little bit. Did you get any messages yesterday by chance? Did the phone ping at all?
No, everybody was good. Everybody's good. I don't think I'm trying to think of what would have really like offended anybody at any promoter or any player particularly.
Were you on the show? I mean, were you there? I know I don't shut up sometimes.
No, it was going to be mad. AJ Manis. I mean, because we question. He knows he's not near the top, and he's got a lot of followers. I mean, what's the, it's not telling him anything he doesn't know. I'm not saying he can't play, although he didn't reach the final 64 of the tournament that he got named to the Reyes Cup in. But okay,
that's not important. I mean, you don't have to actually like play good pool these days. You know what I mean? Like I think the qualifications are, if you played great pool in the past like 8 years, you're good. Hopefully you make single elimination. It's a plus. It's not necessary. Hopefully you make single elimination. Right. And what's the other one, Mike? You got to be around for media day, right? Like you have to show up for
media friendly.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I got a couple of messages yesterday, Mike. I was like,
Did you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I got a couple of
messages. Nobody messages me anymore. You're the one that they want to like.
I don't understand. Like, I know I talk more shit than you do, but how come I'm always the bad guy here between the two, and then you're always the one that just comes out smelling like a rose? Is this like the grandfather?
I don't know about smelling like a rose, but nobody's like coming after me. That's all.
Yeah. Well, Filipino fans are great, man. I love them. They're passionate. But I think all things considered, look, we were about as fair to the conversation as we could be.
Filipino fans come after you?
No, not really. I mean, besides that one dude in the chat from yesterday, but I didn't even notice him until you pointed it out, because I was in the zone.
The guy,
man.
The guy said all we do is talk
on a fucking podcast, right? Go figure.
Go figure.
You know what I mean?
Go figure.
Shocking, right? Yeah. Poll analysts, right? I tell you what, this is why, like, certain like
showing you guys nothing to talk. Well, we were thinking of dancing, but talking seemed to be easier to do.
We flipped a couple of coins for sure before we got there. There's no doubt about it. So, Mike, we got to show some ladies some love today as well, because the Women's World 10 Ball Championship, we left that on the table yesterday. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We dogged that one. Scott Young.
They're down to the semis in there.
Well, let's talk Hanoi, right? Because we bit off more than we can chew there, I say let's talk a little bit of Hanoi, and then let's then at the end we'll do the Women's World 10 Ball. How do you feel, buddy?
Yeah, that sounds fine. Fine.
All right.
I think most of the people who are on here have been following Hanoi pretty closely, so that seems to be topic du jour.
Which is like it, we talked about before it being flat or whatever, lack of storylines, lack of like intrigue and blah blah blah. But like, it's delivered on the tail end, Mike. That's for sure. At least for me, anyway. So
It has.
uh,
It has. Yeah.
and like genuinely surprised.
Well, yeah. It doesn't it kind of remind you of was it the Spanish Open that Robbie Capito won?
UK. He wins the UK. Dang wins the Spanish. Yeah.
Okay. So, but even though you had those type, this is like those type of Final Fours, right? I mean, in the UK one, you had Pius and Robbie playing in the semifinal in that one. And so it's that you get the the Final Four. Well, we'll get to it after we get to through the 16 and then the 8. But it's a wild Final Four when you look at Final Four contestants who's even reached the final of a tournament has been Robbie.
Yeah.
And he's done it once.
Well, let's start with the 16, Mike. What jumps out at you from the matchups that started off last night? I think around like midnight Central Time.
Well, we talked about the bottom half of that being the killer road, and two of the ones who the two matches we thought would be the closest ended up with the slight underdog winning both of those matches. Max beating Jason and Robbie beating Yap, and both of them pounded those guys pretty good.
Yeah. Let me ask you about that Jason Max one, Mike, because whenever we talked about Jay early on, you kind of made a interesting point, and it's like it was kind of in jest, but like it's almost like cringy obvious, where it's like early on in tournaments, he'll dominate and they'll just like pound their chests like, oh man, Jason's just on fire, and it's like, well, he fucking beat the janitor, or he beat,
but if you look at whether he's playing janitors or not, when you looked at him through the first, through the qualification rounds and the first round or so of the single elimination, his numbers were ridiculous. I mean, there's been janitors who've gotten 8 against a lot of really good players.
Yeah.
So Jason was just, but we've seen that before, and I don't know what it is, and I'm sure Jason doesn't know what it is, whether it just runs into a bad match. I didn't see his match against Max, so I don't know if he played poor. I'll have to. I can relook at it on WNTV, at WNT TV, and see what it looked like, but. I don't know. Did he not break well when he had his few chances? All right, he missed 3 or 4 shots. So that's where you start to think, what happens to him at these points of the tournament. I mean, he's not a choker. He's not. I don't know what he just. Picks a match and plays poorly.
Yeah.
So I looked at him and said, well, he's got some dog in him when it gets near the end. He just
I wouldn't go like like I'm with you there. I wouldn't go as far as like saying like he's a choker like either, Mike, or saying he's got dog.
No, not at all.
And I genuinely don't think of Jason in that light. But I will say what I will say is that Jay can check out. I mean like check the fuck out. Like once he starts to slide, more often than not, like he's just it is what it is, and I think like the curious part of me just, and this is like a contrast, right? Where like I was real high, well, not real high, but like today I was really high on the fight, and even yesterday we had the show talking about Jonas, where like that kid was just showing some toughness. You know what I mean? Like even though he dropped before single, right, to end up on one loss side, like he's been basically in the playoffs single elimination for every fucking match, and has had like some pretty tough outs, and he showed just a ton of heart, and we'll kind of like go through his road as well. But yeah, it's like, I mean, he has Jundle Mazon yesterday, and he's a very decorated player. We've seen him around for forever, but it was like, other than that, I mean, he hadn't really faced anyone. And when I saw the matchup with Max, and man, I love Max, and I have for years. I like him personally, and I've loved his game. But I was shocked to see Max beat Jay, because there's like certain players where like we're high on them, But then
Yeah,
once they match
but when-
with a different kind of player, then it's like it kind of reminds me of like Martial and Federer, right? Because like Martial is always great enough to go and get through like 16-8. But then when I see him play against fucking Federer, I'm like, oh goddamn, he ain't, you know, he gone. You know what I mean? Like, and it's consistently like that. You know what I mean? And so, and I love Daniel as well. You know what I mean? And so, but it's just I was Jason, and even whenever like I'll get press releases or whatever, and it's like they're always quoting him, and I know they're pushing him ahead of the rest of the world team, even though he hasn't gotten formally announced and all these things. But it's like, and the one part that really irks me about it is like you'll see him say, "Oh, I'm here to win," but then I've talked to Jason on camera before, where he's also very much said like, "Oh, I got nothing left to prove. I've done it all on him," and I'm like, I don't know which one you're getting. You know what I mean? Depending on I guess who's asking. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
kudos to Max for pulling that one off. Robbie beating Yap. That one I didn't see coming either, Mike, at the bottom, you know? So,
Well, I knew that was going to be a tough match for Yap. I mean, Robbie and Yap know each other so well. They play so much over there. And I think Robbie has always played him pretty tough. But 10-3, I wasn't expecting. But, you know, and I would never say Yap checks out. But once I saw he was behind, you know, it made me think, do you consider Yap much of a come from behind player?
I do.
I'm trying
I thoroughly.
Really,
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of matches where I've seen him 3-4 racks behind, 5 racks back and win. I couldn't think of too many.
No, I know there's been a couple of like big spot matches this year where like he's been down like 5-1 in that range, and I can't remember who the opponent was, but he's one of the few players where like and especially with his break, right? And it goes back to the break and execution, but like I feel like with that always in his back pocket that like and the thing with Yap is I don't see him get emotional. I don't see him fucking check out. I don't see him make excuses after matches. I don't see him like, you know, like he's
we've seen him lose confidence.
Yeah.
We've seen that. I mean, that's he'll tell you that in his biggest flaw going into this year. You know, and even after a couple of big wins this year, I remember him telling me, he says, you know, man, I've been getting so lucky. I don't know how long this luck is going to last. I'm like, dude, you're winning enough to the point where you got to realize it's not luck. You know, you're kind of making your own by being in a position to take advantage of anything. Right?
Yeah.
So, it was, he's a hell of a player. But, that was a surprising result. Not surprising to me that Robbie was able to stay with him and pull out a win. Surprising that he beat him that bad. The top half of that bottom half bracket, we kind of thought Pius and Carlo, you know, were the odds-on favorites, and they both won. Carlo won really easily over Roland, surprisingly easily. So, you know.
Nothing too shocking there for me, Mike. I mean, the scoreline from Raymond and Pius was a bit, I don't want to say alarming, but like I didn't know which way it would go because I thought Raymond, and on paper, although Pius is the more named player, especially these days, especially considering that we haven't seen Raymond in years, but I certainly know his potential and so and what his ceiling is for that matter. So like it was, but then it wasn't, you know, kind of surprising. Johnny Vegas in the chat says Roland fell apart. I hate to say it, but like that's his calling.
Can fall apart.
Yeah. Like that's very much like, you know, in his range. But he can play smooth as butter, you know, for a long stretch of a match, and in this case, a long stretch of a tournament. But the dog in it part, I mean, he's got it, man. I'll tell you the story as I transition here. I'm gonna turn it off here for just a minute while I bring up the final 8 players. But so we were in Vegas one time, and I think it was it must have been during Mandalay Bay, Mike, is what I'm thinking. So it would have been Matchroom's first U.S. Open, right? And it was during their first U.S. Open, and we were in Vegas, and like it was probably towards the last, I want to say maybe like 3 days, right? Maybe like 2 days.
Who was he playing? He was playing
Federer. He was playing Federer. No, he's playing Federer. He's playing Federer, and this is before like Federer was Federer, right? Like we knew what he could be. You know what I mean? Like, and we all saw like, you know, this kid could be something really special. You know what I mean? Like he just, you knew he was knocking on the door, right?
Right.
And so Griff's in the evening was just jam packed, right? Because U.S. Opens in fucking Vegas, right? All the not all the big names, but a lot of big names are out at that point because you're down to like whatever 8 players or whatever, right? So like the who's who. You walk in the place. Number one, it's standing room only. Number two, it's like chock deep full of just fucking monsters. I mean, the Austrians are there, the Europeans are there, the Filipinos are in the corner, with their group all putting their money together, right? And so they put Raymond in the box, and I think Federer was giving him something like no, Raymond. Raymond was playing Federer, and I'm sorry, and Federer was giving Raymond, I want to say like 3-21 or something, right? And so that place is thick, Mike. I mean, you got champions on bar tables. It was that packed, And so anyway, Raymond storms on Federer, right? I mean, he's up pretty decent, coasting throughout the whole match. And then when it gets to like 18-19 to maybe like 10-11, going to 21, Federer comes back and puts some heat on Raymond's ass, So it ends up coming down to Hill, right? Hill, and the fucking place, it just thick full of people, man. It gets dead quiet in that last rack. I mean, fucking dead quiet. You got fucking Filipinos that are there, like this, and everyone's kind of fucking sweating it. And I'll never forget it. So I forgot how the last rack went, but long story short, Raymond's running out. And the last like 2-3 balls, he gets fucking tough on the 10 ball. It kind of reminds me like of like a Pro Beard Series spot shot type shot. But imagine the cue ball more like center diamond. So like you're almost 50-50, right? You're almost like 50-50 on the ball.
Yeah.
Thin cut, right? And so the whole room dead quiet, and Raymond sizing it up, and Raymond can take a little bit of time, sizing it up, goes back, wiping down the cue with the towel. He fucking, with the whole room watching, right? And they were streaming it as well, right? The whole fucking room watching.
First, second.
He airballed it, Mike. He didn't even hit the 10. I mean, like, it was a thin cut on the 10, Mike, but I swear to God, he airballed it, and the whole room lets out like this collective gasp, like, because nobody would have seen it coming. Like, at least
that will scare you. That will scare you for life. That will scar you for life.
We didn't see him. He went to the Philippines and never came back. Like nobody. This is like the first tournament back since then, basically. So like, but that's like my Raymond story in a nutshell. And I've got a couple of them, but yeah, it was. I'll never forget it, man. And you should have seen like all the Filipinos just fucking with the collective, like, and Jeff DeLuna is there, and he's like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? Because Jeff is a passionate guy. You know what I mean? And so, anyhow, that's my Raymond story. But Raymond's a great player. He's got in the finals of, I think, like a Super Beards Expo, when that was like doing great in its day full of champions as well. But let me bring back up the bracket here, Mike, and let's go through the final 8. We got
top half of it went kind of the way we thought it would go, right? Roberto, Moritz. I think you thought Fraser was a favorite over Harry.
Hold on, why am I on final? I'm on final 8. Where are we at here then, Mike?
16. We didn't talk about the top half of the final 16.
I skipped
Roberto.
Them, I guess. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Harry beats Fraser. Jonas over Kiet, who was coming off some big Filipino wins. Moritz over David. That one on paper was really juicy going into it, Mike. And then Roberto and Tristan, like we mentioned, I don't know who the fuck Tristan was. No disrespect to him, but I mean that's where he ended up in this tournament, Mike. And then whenever we got down to the final 8, Moritz and Roberto 10-6 score line in favor of the German. The one below, Harry's coming out party was last year, Mike. I didn't know who Harry Vergara was until that match with Shane, and I'll never forget because one side of the room had, I think it was Little Kachi versus Chua, right? So like on paper, that's a juicy match, even though Little Kachi wasn't Little Kachi, at that time. And the other side of it was SVB and Harry. And I'm thinking like, I don't know who the fuck Harry is. SVB's going to, steamroll the guy. And then it ended up being one of the best finishes I've ever seen in my entire life of watching pool. But that one right there, my heart kind of broke a little bit for Jonas. I'm not gonna lie, Mike, because at that point he became kind of like the story for me, and I was kind of rooting for seeing that matchup.
Yeah. I was,
Moritz.
I loved, Moritz beating Roberto, kind of that cinched Moritz's spot on Reyes Cup. At that point, then I started rooting for Jonas. Go ahead and win this thing, and let's get get you into those tournaments too. But he did not. I saw enough of that match to know that Jonas didn't play the type of matches he played to get there. He did make a lot of casual mistakes, missed some really easy balls toward the match. A couple of really, head shakers, and not like he rushed it.
But was he like down on himself?
What's that?
Was he like down on himself, or like after?
No, I mean, he was shaking his head after he missed, but I mean, he looked like he was. I mean, he was trying to get back into the match, and I had a couple opportunities to run out a rack and get the break, and who knows what can happen then, and he would just, I don't know if he nonchalants the ball or if he's gripped too tight or whatever, but he missed a couple shots that were just really not good. Harry played pretty strong, obviously. That was a good match for Harry, So
yeah, and I mean, I love great stories, and Harry in his own right is his own story, right? And you think about the economics of the Philippines and all these things, and how hard it is for these guys to get opportunities and to make name for themselves, especially in the Philippines, because it is so chock full of talent and name players, and he's always going to be in someone else's shadow. But for him to have a signature win in Harry over Jonas, especially in that spot of the tournament. You got to show a little bit there for sure.
We talked about all the Filipinos who were in this field, and you had a pretty legit shot at 3 Filipinos in the Final Four. I mean, that was staring you right in the eye there. They all had a shot. And probably the least likely of the 3 is the one who makes the Final Four.
P.S. Labudas defeated Carlo Beato Hill in dramatic fashion. Carlo, I think, was down 10-7 in that matchup after a foul.
He was down the whole match. I don't think he ever led in that match. If he did, it was really early, but he was trailing the whole time. Came back 6-6. P.S. went ahead 7-6. Carlo tied at 7-7. Looked like go ahead 8-7, and then
shocked.
Just messed up position, had to play a couple saves, and then ended up with, a shot that looked like he was going to get out and scratch into a corner pocket. And then PS is up 8-7 and goes and breaks into 9-ball. So now it's 9-7.
When it rains, it pours. God damn, how brutal is that, Mike?
Typical Carlo. I mean, PS goes up and dry breaks. And I'm like, well, here we go. This is going to be Carlo being Carlo. And sure enough, he blasted through the next 2 racks. Pius never got out of his chair. It's 9, and Carlo was breaking. And unfortunately, Carlo got, without a shot on the 2 and had to push out and ended up, losing the battle to get the first open
shot. I wasn't a fan of that push out, Mike, by Carlo. And obviously, when it's hill, there's always chaos, and it never seems like there's going to be, a tic-tac-toe run out. But that's part of the cool guy just having fun with us, But I thought it was really loose.
P.S. didn't even consider giving that shot back to him. P.S. was on that shot the minute that Carlo left it. So, it was, it was a tough loss for Carlo. Great win for Pius. I mean, we both love Pius.
Yeah, for sure.
He was in the semifinal. Last time he reached semifinal, he played Robbie in UK Open, and now he's going to be in another one. I'd love to see this kid win this tournament. Would love to see him win this tournament. Even though I Moritz, I'd love to see Moritz win too. But Pius is, always liked him.
Yeah, he's a guy that makes it real easy to root for. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have, it seems like, a bad bone in his body, and he can beat name players, right? But I remember the Derby when he plays filler, was it filler or filler in the early morning. You know what I mean? And he showed some moxie in that match, forcing a
Yeah,
second set when Filler still had a buyback. You know what I mean? So like he's certainly capable. You can't question the kid's heart. He's always in that like 8, 9, 10 range, at least for the last like 2 years. And he kind of
yeah.
becomes a bit of an afterthought as far as storylines because other guys just kind of like take center stage on him. You know what I mean? And whether it's bigger
Well, yeah, I mean,
personality, yeah.
reaching a final eight is always a great thing, but all anybody ever talks about after a tournament is the final four players.
Yeah, yeah. But like that once Carlos sold out the 2 ball at Hill, kudos to Pius because he handled his damn business, Mike. Like
Yeah, he did.
he sealed the deal, and it was a little nervy, especially that first opener. But
Right.
after that, like once he was in line, I mean, it was a wrap, and he just did what he needed to do. So and that's not easy. There's a lot of great players that can go and shake, especially when like the guy just closed a 2-game lead on you real quick, and then everybody in the room is rooting for
When you
Carlo, right?
underhit something or overhit something and get out of line on the next shot, we've seen it a million times.
For sure, Mike, for sure. But now we're down to Final Four. Moritz Neuhausen against Harry Vergara, Pius Labutis against Robbie Capito. Give me your take on the top match, Mike, Moritz and Harry.
Moritz is the man of the moment, right? I mean, it's he's showed no let up after the Perry Open. So
you know how wild that is, Mike? Just that by itself.
Like, if he wins these two tournaments back to back in 10, 12 days time, that's pretty strong. That would be strong.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean,
that's
like
a good turning up party. That's like, I won this little warm up tournament on my way to the major, and then won the major.
It's unheard of. I mean, he would pick up 80,000 in like 10 days for one. You know what I mean? And number two, the depth of the field, the pressure, and the depth of the field of the Perry, followed by the pressure of the Matchroom stage, right? And even though there wasn't a lot of fans in the arena all week long,
it was 11 o'clock at night by the time these guys were playing.
Well, but my point is, from talking with some people in the know out there, is that ticket sales are pretty good for the final day. So I expect to be pretty packed for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, kudos to Moritz, man. I wanted to see the Moritz and Jonas story finish out. Like, I wanted to see that battle come to a head, And so, but listen, Harry is the Cinderella all over again, even though he was in the quarters last year,
Yeah.
And so, he certainly you certainly can't take him for granted if you're Moritz, but you want to talk about riding a hot hand. I mean, like we were both really high on this kid, Mike, but like he's put it in a different gear over the last like 2 weeks whenever he needed to the most. It kind of reminds me, Mike, of like Victor a couple of years ago, maybe it was last year during the US Open, where like, hey, listen, son, it's time. Like, this is when you got to make a move, And Moritz, to his credit, like he fucking just went out there and just did it, Mike. Like he took full advantage of the opportunity, which is very difficult to do, especially considering the depth and the expectations. He was rewarded with a rest of the world team spot, Mike. And before we jump into Pius and Robbie, I want to just kind of get your take on that.
Well, he's earned it. I mean, we talked about the merit thing. Well, he's the top, filler on the outside looking in. He's the top European player this year. He just is. Yeah. So, give him all the credit in the world. This guy is
think about that for a second, Mike. The top European player in the season. Like, how tough that is to do?
Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, hats off to him. It's not that all of a sudden he blazed through one big tournament and he's a champion. He's every tournament he's grinding, he's in there, he's gotten better, he's learned from matches that he's lost, he's done everything the right way. He's becoming that type of player where you're like, well, get used to seeing this kid, because this is not flash in the pan or win a tournament and then just be kind of 16 to 24 the rest of the. No, this guy's going to be you're going to kind of pencil him in for the top 8 in most events.
Yeah. Agreed, Mike. Thoroughly agreed, for sure. And this is like when you start having in the season and in the tour in and of itself is already tough. But when you start having consistency in Asia, like think about that for a second, Mike, because that is about as tough as it can possibly get. And I'm reminded, kind of just reflecting for a second, about the Perry all over again. And it's like you saw that photo of 3 Taiwanese players, Mike. You know, 3 Taiwanese players right behind him. That if we would have gone and ranked them prior to that Final Four, we probably would have put Moritz 4th, right? Yeah, 4th, right? And then the difference that 2 weeks makes, or 10 days makes, or whatever the hell it is, a week makes. And so this is where you start seeing transitions in players' games. Some of them fold, some of them shake, some of them rattle, and some of them just rise. And it's great seeing Moritz kind of like, kind of stand very tall, and he still looks very loose, right? His precision is off the charts. Reminds me of another German player, by the way. And just thinking about like the way the season's gone for the kid, he was we talk about that European abyss all the time, right? How you can get lost in it. And PS for that matter has been a victim of that over the course of 2 years as well. But like, and even earlier this year, Mike, I made a post on Windows Open where I was like, is Felix the second best German? And now Moritz is Moritz the best? Is Moritz having the best? Yeah. Well, you know what? At the time, listen, I'm real high on Felix, but it's kind of,
but he's like 12. I mean, come on.
Like that's stopping anybody these days,
He hasn't even finished growing yet. Give the guy a chance.
I just like, it's the point I was trying to make is that I just think it's so great to see guys just step up, and Moritz is stepping up, and it's very, very easy to get lost in everything going on. It's very easy to get lost in trying to be on social media, trying to compete, being an afterthought, trying to make a place for yourself. And like when your game starts speaking volumes and you earn a spot on these teams, like not because you're flashy, not because, you got, 500,000 followers. It's like, kid, you went out there and you fucking grabbed it by the throat, And so
you didn't give people a choice.
Yeah. Yes.
You put yourself in a spot where, I take this from me. It's mine. Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, man.
That's what he did.
You can't.
That's the way you take care of business. That's the way you take care of business.
If you can pair that with like opening up personality wise, kid's good looking, he's got consistency.
He's got plenty of time ahead of him to become a media star. He wants to get his game squared away and get his position in the game set. And then he can kind of ride the gravy train after that. So I love the way he's doing it. Who's the guy who kept saying there's going to be 2 Europeans in the final of this tournament?
Oh fuck! Here we go. Here we fucking go, Mike. Here we go. You didn't waste any time fucking reminding me on that one, did you? All right, let me bring.
I can still be hearing Robbie. So.
I'm going to bring back up the draw here. Let me see. I'm going to turn off the chat here for a second, guys. Give me one. We got PS against Robbie, Mike, down below. What do you got there, man?
Well, Robbie's been there. He's been there against PS. He's won the tournament, So I think, and being in Asia, I think I give Robbie just like a game edge maybe on this.
Wow. Okay.
But I really, I like Robbie a lot, and I was happy to see him win. I'm always happy to see people win for the first time, right? So I'm going to be rooting for PS.
Yeah, the underdog factor. I can appreciate that, Mike, for sure. And like all of them are just easy guys to root for, like even Harry for that matter. You know what I mean? Like these are all just guys that are easy to go and get behind. And so I don't really know where to go with this matchup, Mike. Like if you were to think like what are big upsets and what's riding momentum, like one guy beat Yap and the other dude just beat Carlo fucking Beato. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right.
You want?
I think they're both coming in. I think they're both coming in feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I think they like their spot. But the one thing is that both of them are going to show just a ton of heart in that matchup as well. Both of them have a severely underrated break, in my opinion. conditions are going to be a bit of a factor. I would favor Robbie more just because of being in Asia. So maybe I would give a little bit of an edge there, and him being able to kind of adjust a little bit. Plus, look, Robbie has been in a final before. Now I know you're not going to compare the UK final, like in terms of fans, compared to what we expect tomorrow to be like in Hanoi. But I mean, I would kind of chalk up a little bit of an edge there to Robbie as well. But it's close though, Mike. I mean, it's super, super close. I feel like between these two. Are you? So you're picking Robbie out of that matchup?
No, I'm going to pick Pius. I'm picking Pius and Moritz.
Pius and Moritz. Who do you got winning it all then? They're
Moritz.
buddies, by the way, too, Mike.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm rooting for Pius, but if I have to bet, I'm betting Moritz.
Let me ask you this, Mike. So it can go either way. I feel like between those two guys, like we just talked about. Yeah. If Robbie wins this tournament, is he making Team Asia?
No. I mean, Team Asia is down to one player, right? They've announced 4 out of 5.
Sorry, Mike. My phone picked up something. What was that? I couldn't hear you.
They've announced 4 out of 5 already, right? There's only one spot left.
So Carlo, AJ, Yap. No, they still got 2. So they're gonna announce Huang, right? Unless they did that while we went on. I don't know if they've already announced Huang.
Yeah, I thought I saw a piece that had 4 for each team already pegged, a Matchroom post.
Maybe, unless I missed it. But is there any way you're leaving? Is there any way you're leaving Chua off of this team?
There's no way it's not Huang and Chua.
Even if Robbie goes and snaps off Hanoi. You talked about you talked to me yesterday.
Robbie won a tournament. Robbie won a tournament last year. He didn't make it.
Yeah, but it was a different time of the year, right? We talk about you riding the hot hand, and you're playing for October and all these things, Mike. And you mentioned you had a real good argument yesterday that really just opened my mind up differently when you talk about having the possibility of 3 Filipinos. And I know Robbie's a Filipino as well, even though he's represented by a Hong Kong flag.
Yes.
But you talked about the value of having players in different markets, and we've talked about that all the time on the show, Mike. And so even with the win, you don't think there's an outside chance that kid makes it into the Reyes Cup, especially considering he was the 6th guy out. Like, he was the first guy out on Team Asia.
Chua?
Yeah.
Ahead of Chua, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it possible? Yeah, I would really be surprised.
And I'm just asking for the sake of the conversation, because I
get it. I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah.
So when this got brought up to me earlier, my first thought is, well, let me go look at rankings, right? And you talked about Robbie. He's been real active on social media. He's playing great, all these things, and he's checking off a lot of boxes, But then I went and I looked at rankings. Kid's sitting like at 20-something thousand, right?
Yeah,
even if he would have won, he's still sitting half of the money behind Chua.
Yeah, even with this win, I don't see it.
I don't see it either, Mike. And I think that, like, Chua just embodies the future. Chua embodies leadership. Chua embodies what I think about in terms of, like, just being a mainstay on a team. He's the kind of guy that you can ride the wave for the next 5-7 years. He can, and I know he's very proper and respectful and all these things, and says all the right things, and he's genuine about it. But like he seems like a pillar. You know what I mean? He doesn't seem like a secondary type player. I'm of the opinion that I don't think you can leave Chua off of that team, and I think it will be Huang and Chua. But it makes for an interesting conversation, especially leading into tomorrow. And where I thought, like, the idea of Chua not being on that team wasn't even on my radar. You know what I mean? Robbie kind of just he made a good argument to this point. You know what I mean? So, but I think again, he'll end up being the first guy left off that team, and so it's a little brutal, but you kind of have to you got to have more padding going into this tournament because even when you just look at numbers and things like that, like I said, even if Robbie were to win, Chewy would still be doubling him up on rankings, so
Yeah,
that's where I have a real hard time.
I don't. Yeah, I don't happen.
All right, so you got Moritz winning it all tomorrow, back to back. You're such a chalk guy all the time.
How is that chalk? How many guys win these?
He just won the tournament.
That's what I'm saying. There's no chance he wins 2 in a row. If you're betting,
this is where like you're hedging here a little bit. You know what I mean? Like you're making a case on both sides.
I'm just saying that's not chalk. I mean, we had Federer on at one time, and he was like, "Listen, I know my odds of winning the World Championship twice are like slim and none," and Slim just left the room. So, right. It's we know that part of it. So, yeah. But I just like the way he's playing. I like his determination. I think he's one of those guys, the way he's rolling right now, he's one of those guys who can break that odds against.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And you see that in the confidence in which he plays, and that experience. And listen, when we talk about big tournaments and big players and big stages and all these things, right? I talked about at the end of the Perry, one thing that I really valued about what Moritz did, not just beating the monsters that he did, the fashion in which he did, all these things, but I talked about how much it impressed me that he did it in that arena, because even though it was at a pool room, Mike, that Perry was pretty thick, pretty filled with fans, a lot of energy in the room, a lot of pressure, expectations, and especially in hindsight now, right? It's like, even though we knew he was a part of that realm of conversation, he wasn't ahead of the conversation, right? Because that 5th spot was very much still open. So he was playing for a lot, Mike, not just winning 40,000.
No, he was going to have to. He was going to have to, get that top spot to get it to,
Yeah.
He was being talked about, but he wasn't. It was almost like, kind of looking for an excuse to not have to take him type of approach.
And that's where I would agree with you to your point, Mike, is that like, if you think about beating the odds, everything that I think of when I would go and weigh that out just says the same thing to me. It says the same thing, because it's like Moritz and this event in general has been like a little gaffy because of conditions, and we talked about this whenever we were talking about the 64, where it was like I genuinely did not know which way to go. Like and whenever I start looking at matchups and on paper who's favored, and it's like everything fundamentally just doesn't have a leg to stand on because it's so difficult out there, and it's only going to get tougher because of more fans in there. But like, it's so hard to handicap and to go and peg because of the way that it's been a bit of a wild west in Hanoi in this tournament. So 2 Asian players, 2 Europeans. It'll end up being a pretty good finish. And it's been like we said earlier, it's been a pretty good tournament, surprisingly, through like 64 about on, Mike. So I asked you yesterday who you thought was going to make the rest of the world team, Mike. I'm going to ask you again today after seeing some results. Who do you think is going to make Asia and the rest of the world team?
Who's going to fill it out? Well, I mean, I expect Chua and Huang for Asia. They did announce Yap today, which was, considering it was kind of weird considering he had pretty much wrapped up his spot, a week ago. So, rest of the world, they've announced 4, right?
So we got Federer, Sky,
Moritz.
No, so we still got 2 spots, no?
Federer, Sky, Moritz.
No, there's still 2 spots open. Like, there's still 2 spots open. Okay,
man, I could have sworn I saw 4. Yeah, I must have been dreaming this morning because I swore I saw 4 named for both teams. But Jason is going to be one of them. We both know that, right?
Yeah.
Moritz. Moritz, Federer, Jason, Sky. We both said yesterday FSR, and now this is one. I mean, what happens if Pius wins this? He's right there. He's right there money wise. He's not Robbie as far as how he's up there in money. So he wins. He has this 40. He's probably in second or third. On the points. So do you still take FSR over him? For if you're Jeremy, probably because you're going to prefer veteran as opposed to picking another rookie. So
you're going to listen. FSR. You're going to highly value experience going into Manila, Mike. And what to Jenny Ann's comment in there about seeing new names, I can appreciate that. I love seeing new names. I love seeing fresh blood, all these things.
Of course.
I just, in my opinion, I thought the only outside chance that someone had at beating Fran was Jonas. And even then, I thought it was a real outside chance. And this is where I feel like you kind of become victim of the lack of storyline going into a tournament, and lack of personality and whatever else, because and to your point, Mike, about the money and him being very much in the mix, money wise, because he's right there behind Jonas. But like I had to go and look to realize that, oh shit, he's right there behind Jonas. Now I know the year he's had and all these things, but like you get lost in that, Mike, and that's where I feel like it becomes part of the problem. I don't think there's any way Jeremy leaves Fran off that team. And I expect Jason to be on that team for that matter as well. So I think it kind of balances out where you have two Americans, or I guess 3 Europeans, you know what I mean? And so, but like Jeremy by default, and it's a bit ironic, him picking Moritz kind of gives the kid a free boost to get a little bit of experience ahead of the Mosconi Cup, Mike. So, it's very ironic, whenever you think about it. So, but he earned it. Kudos to him. Congratulations to him for a hell of a season. The Moritz thing, I can't get enough of because of just like you had to have that game winning drive, Mike, and this is the end of the season. And so the heart that Jonas has, and that's why I mean, him being in the conversation, being very much a part of the mix and a part of the social media and all these things and financially, all these things. I was kind of hoping to kind of see a showdown between those two, but Harry stole the show. We'll see how tomorrow ends up. I don't know who the fuck I'm going to pick, Mike. I guess I would pick Moritz with you, although I hate picking the same guy as you. So, but I genuinely have no idea which way it's going to go, Mike. Like nothing tells me with the old eye test that, it's going to go this way or that way. So, you got anything else?
Is Moritz a guarantee for Mosconi?
I think so. Yeah. If he's got to be at this point, Mike. I mean, like, I don't know what the payout is in the Philippines, and I haven't gone and digested all that and ran through all those numbers and possibilities and can this happen or that happen?
Oh, yeah.
But I think who's going to end up, when I was looking at it earlier, the first guy that comes to mind who's going to get fucked off that team is Cledio, where earlier this year I thought, okay, he's going to be on the Mosconi Cup this year, but I think he's going to be the first guy left off courtesy of Jason Shaw, so and it's kind of brutal, but that's just the way that it goes. So I expect to hear some captain announcements too for the Mosconi Cup. I'd imagine probably next week in Manila.
So yeah, I don't know. It's again. We talked yesterday. It's interesting because we don't know how Matchroom is treating people who weren't in Hanoi relative to Mosconi. We know how they were treating people who weren't in Hanoi relative to Reyes. Don't know for sure how they're treating it relative to Mosconi, and they're not demanding people be in the Philippines. So if that's the case, you still have Filler up at the top of Team Europe. You still have Cledio up at the top of Team Europe. You still have Pius now.
Well,
up at
yeah.
Pius Pius has moved ahead of Fran, win or lose.
Yeah, I mean, the
Right?
opinion that I'm having is based off of the fact that I'm assuming Josh is going to be in, right? And for that matter, I'm assuming Shane's going to be in. But if they're not, then all bets are off, and it's a whole different ball game at that point, you know. So,
well, if they're not, then you assume Cledio's going to be in because
yeah,
he's
exactly.
third.
Yeah.
And
Because he would then shift.
I don't know that he is. What is semifinal money in Hanoi?
Probably like 15. I'm guessing.
15.
I'm guessing 15.
Yeah, so you know, Cledio, Pius, they're still like they'd be neck and neck for the number 3 spot.
Well, but then okay, so then here's the other thing. And this just kind of popped in my head right now as we're talking about this. If you're leaving off Filler and you're leaving off Shane, well, then you're leaving off Cledio then for that matter as well. And oh, by the way, you're leaving off Big
of course,
as well.
Of course, but I don't know. Like I said, we don't know how Kevin's saying it's 10,000 for third. So losing semifinalist, 10,000 doesn't put Pius ahead of Cledio.
Say that again.
So 10,000 for semifinals doesn't put Pius ahead of Cledio.
Oh yeah. No, I mean I think
and
Pius has got to win. Like that's the only he's got to win to make Mosconi Cup, in my opinion. Now and the difference in like the range of how you get.
Well, no, with 16, if he finishes semifinal, he's got 16,000. That puts him in the third place in Europe. And the top 3 get automatics, right?
Okay, say that one more time to me.
If Pius reaches the final, he gets at least 16, which would put him ahead of Cledio for third place in Team Europe rankings, and the top 3 get into Mosconi.
What Cledio is
including
77,000 or something, doesn't he? I'm not looking at
Cledio?
it. I thought I saw earlier that he had like 70.
Yeah, Cledio's got 77.
And Pius got 52. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't
got some
like.
work.
Yeah, and that trickle down effect of if you leave off those 2, it don't get any bigger than Shane and Filler, and if you leave those off, then you're gonna leave off. You're leaving off Cledio and Big Kachi for that matter. You know, so
which I wonder how many of these guys are staying for the Philippine Open. Because I know a lot of guys aren't staying for the Philippine Open. Free ride to some of these guys who need an extra $5,000 to get in.
I don't think there's any it doesn't. If I'm one of those players, number one, I don't want to play that event to spite Emily and Matchroom. Like I don't want to give them the satisfaction of going and playing her tournament to boost up that player field. If I'm them, that's number one. Number two, I don't want to play that tournament because it's half the prize fund as every other major that you've had this year. And number three, I don't want to go and play it as a single elimination. And number four, I don't want to go play that tournament because I don't want to fade a bunch of fucking unknown Filipinos who have a chance to upset me realistically. You know, every round is going to be incredibly tough, you know, even though on paper it may not look like it. So there's a variety of reasons why if I'm those guys, I don't want to go play the Philippines Open. Now, the fan in me, Mike, obviously wants to see the best players and everybody go and show up, but it's not going to be that way. I don't think anyway. So I hope I'm wrong, but never mind the fact that there's a week gap between this tournament, then you're going to have the Reyes Cup for a week, and then the Philippines Open. It's like there's a lot of time for people to go and say, you know what, I'm just going to go home. Because especially these guys who aren't in Reyes Cup, you know, and you can make a team of 5 guys who are left off this Reyes Cup who could compete for the Reyes Cup, you know. So it's gonna be an interesting week for sure. Mike, we got to show the ladies some love because we dogged it fucking yesterday. So the women's World Team Ball has been going on as well. Let's see if I can bring this up here. And I'll be honest. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of it.
If you had to pick one non-Asian player to make the Final Four, who would it have been?
Well, who's in the opportunity right now is one Miss Margaret Fefalova. So congratulations to her. But to your question,
good on her.
But would I have picked her? Hell no. I would have gone fucking. I probably would have honestly. Christina
or or Jasmine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't have been long before you get to Margaret, but I probably would have picked Kelly.
No.
I probably would have picked Kelly, also ahead of her.
I don't think I would have picked Kelly.
You don't think so?
I don't. No, this year Kelly is, just not showing it this year.
Who else? Let me kind of see here because I don't know why I did that. Let me see. Why does it keep on doing that to me? Slatava? No, I wouldn't have picked Slatava ahead of her.
Pia?
Pia, I probably would have put. Pia, I probably would have. Yeah, to be honest, because Pia's been playing some pretty solid pull. But listen, Margaret, in the quarters, she beats Rita Chow, which is incredible. Yeah. I mean, that is a final type player right there, Mike.
She beat Cheryl Kawahara in the final 16 too.
Who's riding a hot hand as well, Mike?
Just riding a hot hand for sure. So it's really good stuff.
You see, we had Cheska beating Wang 3-2, Liu Shaxia beating Jasmine in straight sets, 3-2 in favor of Rubelin, and then Margaret beating Chow 3-1. So we got Cheska versus Liu Shaxia. Mike, that could be a fucking finals as well. Mike, who do you got there in that one?
That's a great match.
That's a great matchup, man.
I'm gonna go Shaxia Liu.
I don't like picking.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was.
Look, there's just like a few principles of life. You know what I mean? Like, just you don't bet against Filipinos more often than not, Mike. So.
Listen, she's won a few tournaments in her day, so
she is an exception for sure, Mike. Listen, I am very well versed in her resume. She's a multiple-time world champion. She has dominated international women's pool for even we hadn't seen her in so long, but we know who the hell she is. Her and Han Yu and those two are class players. I love the fact they're bringing in the Chinese for these events, but I'm a big fan of Cheska, man. I love the way she plays the game. She's super fun to watch.
Who doesn't? You love watching her play. You love watching
being
her
young.
play. The way she plays, though, and I have no idea if there's even an answer to this, but the way she plays, she fires at everything and she does it in a hurry. Does that favor her or hurt her in short sets like this?
I think it favors her in the sense that she's not going to give herself enough time to dwell, and on top of that, I feel like her style of play can be a little tilting for the opposing player.
It can, but style of play can also all of a sudden, you gamble, you take a wild shot, whatever, and it costs you 2 or 3 games. In a race to 11, it's not going to kill you. In a race to 4, it could cost you the set. Really
right.
fast.
Yeah. But when I think about players like that, I think of the snowball effect. Once you rattle one, right. You know what I mean? Then the fucking wheels can come off. I don't think of Cheska like that at all. You know what I mean? Not even close. No. And there's a lot of players who have these whether it's unorthodox styles or a quicker pace or whatever, where I very much think of them like that, Mike, where I'm once they look great and they're exciting until they miss. Now, once they miss, then it's oh shit, then they can really get exposed. Whereas Cheska, I've never seen that in her game. She's very well seasoned, even though she's very, very young. I'm super hot. I mean, you can go either way on it whenever you're chopping them up, So, but I think for just picking through it, I'm probably picking Cheska. Down below, Rubelin Amit. We both know who she is as well. Mike, Margaret Fefilova in that semifinal. Who do you got there?
I mean, how can you not favor Rubelin in that? I mean, this is she's so solid and so tough and she's just a great player. But listen, they can all miss. I mean, I saw Rubelin in the final recently against Weiwei, and she gave away some games. she gave away a couple. She gave away the set. She gave, I saw her miss some really shots that really kind of surprised me. So, none of them are bulletproof. Rubelin's, right there at the top of the game. But if Margaret plays well, short sets, she's got a chance.
It's a great mix of like veterans, young players, great stories between these Final Four players. And like the story is Margaret, but then you can also think, well, the story is Filipino domination or Asian domination or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's look between those two, Mike. The short sets can be a little. It can be tilting one way or the other, but Rubelin has been here for so long. She was a 10-ball champion, 10 years ago, whatever it was, and so she knows what it takes. The short races makes it more gamble, but at the same time, her experience, I feel like, is just going to favor her as far as being able to weather it in case she were to go and drop one, or even for that matter, drop two. Now, no disrespect to Margaret, but like if Rubelin were to go down 2-0, I think she's still in it. Whereas if Rubelin goes up 2-0, I'd probably put a heavy price on her as far as just beating it because of an experience factor and the closing factor. And we talk about this with the men players. Like you have to, in order to get a reputation of being a closer, you got to go and close, and you got to close when it's time, and you got to go and get these wins in big spots. Now, Margaret's had a great run in this tournament, but Rubelin is a different kind of machine, Mike. Rubelin is a different kind of warrior. I'm thinking it's going to be an all-Filipino final. And then if it is an all-Filipino final, I don't know who the fuck I'm going to pick because, I love seeing Cheska win, but I know who the hell Rubelin Amit is, and so.
Yeah, right. And Cheska knows who Rubelin is, and Rubelin is, Cheska's idol, and you just wonder about the hero worship or intimidation factor or that type of thing, which Cheska, they can sometimes feel bad, beating the hero type of thing. So so it's it would be great. It would be a great final. That's for sure.
I think like no matter which way you go, Mike, I think it's going to be pretty fucking stout. Like either anybody wins in the semis, and like whatever we get left with is going to be pretty awesome. So it looks like they 10 tomorrow at 10 a.m. So they're plus 13. So that would be 9 o'clock tonight Central Time. Is whenever they're going to play.
Are they 13 hours? Indonesia is an hour different than Vietnam.
Yeah, they're plus 13. Yeah, they're plus 13. So 9 o'clock Central Time, you guys can check that out. So prime time to be able to sweat some semifinals. I don't know what time the finals are going to be at, but we'll check it out. Either way, go support the ladies. Pro Bear TV. They also got the men's 8-ball, which I don't even know where they're at or who's left.
They're down to the final 32. So it's single elimination from here. Final 32. Still a bunch of guys who you're just like, I don't know who the hell this guy is. Julian Ceradilla against Genesis Quano.
That's all I need to know right there, Mike. That's all I need to know.
Flip a coin. But most of the usual suspects are in. The guys you expect. Kachi's still in there. Filler's still in there. 96 Polish players are still in there. So,
Look, I'll look through it maybe later. We'll post some updates on Windows Open as well. It's going to be a fun ending of the weekend, that's for sure, Mike. I'm not going to be around to do a show tomorrow because I'm going to enjoy I'm going to enjoy sports tomorrow after church, and I'm going to hang out with the girls.
School's not sports. Wow, nice cold roll.
Listen. There's always
watching this who you just offended.
It wouldn't be the fucking first time I offend somebody, Mike. Let's be real about it. But hopefully today I don't get any more messages post show from anyone. But look, all in all, it's been a pretty solid week of pool, Mike. This is
great.
It's
been great.
It lived up to the potential, and I think it exceeded the hype, if that makes sense. So
it didn't live up to the potential in the respect that there's 2 tournaments that are splitting the best men in the world around.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. Like all things considered.
Still the big, all things considered. Yeah, this has been pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, like even given the landscape of it, and kudos to both promoters for doing a hell of a job.
I do like that the 8 ball's going into next week. The men's.
Is it though? So it's not any tomorrow.
Oh no, they're just tomorrow's just the final 32 starting. So they got 32.
So there's 2 more days, then, right?
At least. So it's which I like because it kind of it finishes on Monday, and I like that because it gave us the opportunity to watch 2 different big men's tournament final days without stepping on each other.
Well, then we'll talk about the men on Monday. Then how about that? But I'm watching football.
We have to. Okay.
I guess you know what I mean. So recap Hanoi. Recap the women's World 10 ball. Go enjoy your weekend. I'm going to go hang out with the girls. Mike, you enjoy your weekend as well. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. It has been a fucking fun time this week.